Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Me, Ryan118 here, and welcome to the live match preview for Hearts against Celtic this evening. The first game of the Cinch Premiership campaign. A campaign in which the first time in a decade sees Celtic not heading into the season as champions and having to start our chase back for the league title. It's going to be interesting to say the least. It's, of course, the first season under the management of Ange Postecoglou, under the new CEO, Don Mackay. So it's going to be a very interesting campaign, to say the least. I would be lying in saying that I'm not excited. I'm so excited. I'm buzzing. And it's good to have the league football back now. Of course, there's plenty of positives and plenty of negatives heading into this game. We'll try and take everything with a pinch of salt, but the proper test really does start now. I know that these Champions League qualifiers were going to be big indicators and everything else as to where we are. But, you know, the priority, I think, this season is going to be on that league title and try to win it back as a fly goes about the room. That's going to be the priority, to try and get as close to winning that league title as possible. And I know we've set ourselves in a position where winning that title is basically going to be, you know, as Brian Rice once put it, climbing Mount Everest with flip-flops on. But Ange Postecoglou remains confident, and if he remains confident, then I think us as Celtic supporters should remain confident that there is always going to be that opportunity of trying to win the league this year. That being said, we'll see how Rangers get on this afternoon, see how we get on tonight. It might set out the tone very early, but it's been a tough opener. We're back to Tynecastle for the first time since the curtailed 2019-20 campaign. That's the last time we were at Tynecastle. They spent last season in the Championship. They're just back in the Premiership this season. So it's going to be very interesting. Is it going to be the same sort of standard that we would normally expect of Hearts? Is it still going to be as big a challenge? Let's not underestimate that. Now, let's talk about the game. Since it's a match preview, and thank you to everybody who so far is piling in to the chat and getting your comments in. There's Ryan McGinley as well in there. I will be taking questions towards the last 5 or 10 minutes, so stick around. You can get your comments and your questions in, but let's talk about the game itself. Let's do what we normally do on these recorded versions of match previews, but in a live format. So Celtic heading into this game, look, we're still all prepared. There's no doubt about that. We're still in a position where Celtic are not in a suitable or ideal place to go and really give us a true example of what we'll be this season. We've yet to sign key players. We're yet to improve on areas which are in an emergency state. Which is really annoying because we've known this was going to happen for months. We knew that this was going to be a rebuild season, and the fact that we're going into the first game of the season without players in key areas is really disappointing. But that's not on Ange Postecoglou. That's not on the players. That's on the board and the board's failings to identify it and realise how big a task this is going to be. This season, that's their problem. That they're the ones that's created this. It's not on Ange, but Ange, as he always says, look, he's a football manager. He's nothing else. He's not from another planet either. That was a good comment yesterday. But Ange has to do what he can do as a manager, not anywhere else, and that's his priority today. That's his priority with every game, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we translate all of Ange's philosophy into domestic football. And this is going to be the first big test. That being said, it will be difficult. We've got a donation from Joe, a £5 donation. He says, "Mon the Hearts." Thanks very much for the £5, Joe. Don't know if you're a Hearts supporter. If you are, then hope you're not as chirpy tonight. But anyway, yeah, you know, defensively, I'm worried for us tonight. I really am. Hearts have got players who can create issues. We'll come on to the opposition now. The opposition for me, Hearts, is a team that, yeah, normally playing at Tynecastle in the opening game of the season, you'd be fearful. I'm not as fearful as I normally would be. I am, because of how well prepared we are, a little bit. I'm not going to completely lie and backtrack on everything I've said, but Hearts for me are a team who still have a long way to go to, and they're not really in the best placed situation for this game either. Let's not pretend things are good at Hearts. You know, they kind of slugged their way through the Championship last season. Robbie Neilson came under a lot of pressure. In fact, as much pressure as Neil Lennon seemed to be under at points. A lot of fans wanted him gone. A lot of people wanted Anne Budge gone. And ultimately, I just don't think they're that great a team with that great a manager at the moment. They've lost a couple of key guys, but they've still got players who will be able to give that back line a lot of issues. Liam Boyce, he'll rough up those defenders if he gets the chance. Now, I'm hoping, and we'll come on to my team prediction in a minute, I'm hoping we see Carl Starfelt start, because I feel like we need him in there. I feel like the hot-headedness of Stephen Welsh and the complete rawness of Dane Murray is not going to be enough to handle someone like Liam Boyce. Liam Boyce is someone who ultimately has finished top scorer in this league before. Remember when he was at Ross County? He was absolutely brilliant, finished top scorer in the division. And he done that from not just great finishing, but being physical, being a real presence. And I feel like that's something that Welsh and Dane Murray could struggle with. So they've got him in there. They've got him in the middle. They've got Gary Mackay-Steven as well in that team. And they've got players all over the place as well who can really cause issues for Celtic in terms of physicality. And, you know, they're going to be going in. You know, you've got players like Andy Halliday. They'll be right up for this. Andy Halliday will be dying to win this game, for example, and I'm sure that sort of spirit from players like Halliday will rub off on the rest of the Hearts team. So we can't underestimate them as opponents. Yes, I don't feel like they're as good a team as Hearts should be or can be in the future. They are just back up. They'll be really, they'll be kicking themselves. Naismith is retired, because tonight I think would be a fantastic night for Stephen Naismith to play. I think it would be his ideal situation, playing against such a young team, a team that he could feel like he could wind up. But of course, he's retired now. I think he's into that coaching role now at Hearts. So, but they've got players there that are going to be able to cause Celtic a lot of issues. But going forward, we should have too much for them. Now, David Buick made an interesting point to me this morning. You look at that Hearts back five just now, the back five of Gordon, Suter, Halkett, Smith, Kingsley. You look at that back five, and arguably, you take four of them right now in the Celtic back five. You'd probably take Craig Gordon. You'd probably take Michael Smith. You'd take Smith over Ralston. And arguably, you'd take the likes of Suter and Halkett over Dane Murray and Stephen Welsh at this moment in time. So, you know, that's quite a weird. There was David Buick who pointed out to me this morning. I was sitting thinking to myself, Christ almighty, that's a good point. Like, the fact that we're going into this game and Hearts could arguably have a better back line, this is an absolute joke, especially when they're just coming out of the fucking championship. That being said, our front line and our attacking presence in the game should be enough to see Celtic winning. I'm fairly confident we can win this game tonight. I don't think it'll be any sort of, you know, I don't think masterclass, or I'm not going to blow them out of the water. We're not going to win 4-5-0 or anything like that. Let's not get carried away. But I feel like we still have got enough to get us over the line tonight, and still got us enough to get the 3 points. Hearts play a 3-4-3 with Nielsen. I don't know if that will remain the same tonight, but if it does remain the same, if they decide to go for that 3-4-3, we have got the players and we've got the talent to deal with that. We've got the absolute gems on the wings, I think, to go and get us some goals, some good play down those wings. I feel like we've just got that there. On that note, thanks very much to Aaron Smith, who had £2 donation, terrified that Beaton starts tonight. Let's hope he doesn't. People say there's a demand for McGinley in the chat. I should have told McGinley I was going live, but we're not going to be on for too long. I'll be coming at your questions in a moment. Now, on that note, let's talk about the Celtic team. What will happen with that 3-4-3? In my head, I'm like, get Abada, and get Furuhashi. Play them on the two wings and absolutely terrify them, terrorize them down those wings with Abada and Furuhashi. Do I think Furuhashi will start? No, I don't think so. There hasn't been, I think, a clear confirmation that Furuhashi will play tonight. His period of quarantine is over, so he could be available. If he is available, I would imagine it would be to the extent of being on the bench and doing a Scott Sinclair towards the end of the game. So we'll see what happens with that, but I think we've got the quality on the wings to cause a lot of bother. Got a Hearts fan in the chat, Stuart. Thanks very much, Stuart, for chipping in. Really appreciate it. He's at the game tonight. I wish I was there. It would be great to go to a Tynecastle away game, but sadly unable to do that at the moment. But as for the team, Bain or Barkas, who goes in goals for Celtic? Will he stick with Scott Bain? He more than likely will, I think, but I hope he goes back to Barkas. I really do. And I know people don't really want to hear that, but it's just two horrible situations, isn't it? Is it Barkas? Is it Bain? Pick your poison. It's not the greatest scenario, but I hope Barkas goes back in. I think the back four speaks for itself. I think it'll be very similar to what we've seen on Wednesday night. But I do think Starfelt could come in, and he should come in if he's available. Yes, he might not be fully up to scratch, but he has been training. He has been playing. And, well, he's not been playing. He has been training. He was playing for Ruben Kazan before he left. So he has been playing to an extent. I would throw him right in that team. I would get him right in there. He can't be any worse than Dane Murray. He's better. He's obviously going to be better than Dane Murray, but even in the situation he's currently in with quarantining and all the rest of it, I'd rather play Starfelt than Dane Murray. I'd play Welsh and Starfelt personally. I think Taylor will obviously start at the left back. I think we'll see the rest of the team looking very similar. I think it will be Turnbull, Sorrell, McGregor. I think it will be Abada, Edouard, and Christie as well. And hopefully we see Furuhashi come into that team later on in the game. I really do. I think that he could be a real gem for us this season. So I'm looking forward to the prospect of having Furuhashi in that team tonight, and hopefully provides us with a magic moment. The man from Japan. For the last 5 minutes, I'll take some questions on tonight's game, so feel free to power them into the chat. We'll have a little Q&A. McGinley is in there somewhere, but thank you to everybody so far who has been watching. But we'll answer some questions to end off the show. So if you have got anything you feel I have missed out or you want me to answer, then feel free to pop it in. Try and keep it around tonight's game as it is tonight's match preview. An 8 o'clock kickoff. Madness, isn't it? 8 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday night. Never get that in Scottish football. It feels big time. It feels almost, very Sky Sports English football coverage. But did I get in the Dundee bar? I did not, Brian. I see a couple of people asking that, so I'll be watching from home once more, but it shouldn't be too long now till we're in full stadiums, and I think that's one thing that we can't wait for, obviously. But even in the prospect of being at Tynecastle and stuff, the away fans being back, it's a great dynamic. It's a dynamic that I think we want back. What is wrong with Hazard, says Jamie Barr? What's wrong with him is he's not good enough. He's very poor. Living off a penalty shootout. Let's not. Everybody will go, oh, he won us the cup. He almost lost us the cup as well. He was very lucky to recover himself in that penalty shootout. Hazard is probably someone who I don't think will ever get near that starting 11 for Celtic ever again. Any chance of a Yeti starting over Edouard? After midweek, I would personally give a Yeti the shout, but I don't think it will happen. I think Edouard will start the game. We don't quite know what's happening with the situation in terms of Edouard leaving the club. There's not been really any further updates or anything to suggest that it's concrete and he's off. But if he plays anything like he did on a Wednesday night, I wouldn't want him in the team tonight. I really wouldn't. I'd give him a little break and I'd bring him back in. I'd ease him back into it. If a Yeti isn't showing it in training, though, ultimately he's going to stick with Edouard, isn't he? So God knows what is going to actually happen there. Who's going to be the top scorer this season? I see that question. I can't get it up on screen for some reason. Who's going to be the top scorer this season? I think I opted for Kevin Nisbet from Hibs. I think that's who will be. If you're talking Celtics, it's got to be Furuhashi. I'm telling you, it's got to be Furuhashi. And there's that there. Who's going to be Celtic's top scorer this season from Lee? I think it will be Furuhashi, as I said. I think he may drop Turnbull and play Forrest out wide and put Christie back in the middle. A very good suggestion, Keane. I wouldn't be against that. I think Turnbull has been anonymous in the last couple of games. I think he's still finding his footing in this new system. It's not quite as simple as it was from last year, where he was that number 10 constantly. I think that he's having to adapt his game, and that might take a bit of time. So I wouldn't mind, really, if we did bring Forrest on, maybe moved Abad out to the left and then put Christie back in the middle and then bring Turnbull on a little later on. I wouldn't mind if we'd done that, but I do think he'll just stick with the same system that he's been playing so far. I really do. What else? Let's see what else. If Starfelt does start, who do you drop? What about Murray or Welsh? Also, would you start Forrest? Good question from Mazar there. Starfelt replace Murray, as I've touched on. I think that should be the obvious choice for Ange and doing this. And if a Forrest was available to start, which he will be, I wouldn't mind him starting. I think either way I'll be happy. So yeah, Jason Hammer, West Ham fan. If Ange likes a keeper who can play with his feet, why being linked with heart? God knows, because Dermot Desmond is handling our transfers, and it's a recipe for disaster. That is why we're being linked with Joe Hart. So yeah, do you think we might see Liam Shaw? Sorrell was a bit dodgy. He was. Sorrell was quite erratic. I think on Wednesday night he was a little bit all over the place. I still think he's got a lot of polishing to do. I wanted Shaw to come on Wednesday night, and I wouldn't be against him coming on tonight whatsoever. I like the look of him. Do I think he will, though? I don't think so. I don't think Shaw will see any minutes tonight. I don't know when he will see minutes, but hopefully when he does, it's a real sort of breakout performance, and we can start to trust him in that team. Bit more of a presence, Patches is suggesting in the chat. Maybe so. Sorrow is obviously a lot smaller, a lot more nimble, whereas Shaw towers over players, tall, and he has that sort of the characteristics you want of a defensive midfielder. McGinley, Sorrell will get sent off tonight. Mark my words. Don't say that. Why would you say that? Why would you? I don't believe in superstition myself, but why would you say it, McGinley? Why would you? But yeah, that'll about do it. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for coming along to the match preview. As for my prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Celtic. Glimpses of that Rodgers' first game back in 2016. Furuhashi, if he does play, he'll get a goal. I can feel it. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me. But that's the whole point in this series. Predicting and seeing how many I get right. If you have enjoyed, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And yeah, thanks guys for coming out. And I'll see you